All right, so the last thing that we're going to cover for the week is subtracting mixed numbers with regrouping. Okay, so this is pretty tough. Requires a lot of steps, really understanding fractions and division and breaking down numbers. With that said, I'm not going to write down all the steps. It's too much and it gets confusing when you have too many steps. But I am going to show you the two strategies. One, when you're working with problems, it's often good to know multiple strategies because sometimes one strategy is easy with certain problems and the other strategy is easy with the other problems. But I'm going to show you how to do both strategies. Um, but first, before I even do anything, I'm going to go ahead and get these fractions with the same denominator. So 1/4 and 5/7. So 1/4, um, so 1/4 minus 5/7. Right? So I'm not doing any subtracting right now. All I'm simply doing is getting the denominators the same. And then so my common denominator between 7 and 4 is going to be 28. And then so 4 times 7, so 7. And then so now my fraction becomes 7. My fractions become 7/28 and 20/28. Now I'm going to put them back into my mixed numbers. So I have 12 and 7/28 minus 8 and 20/28. All right. Now looking at this, here's my next problem. I can't take away 20/28 from 7/28. All right. So even though this is a smaller number, the fraction is actually bigger. So what I'm going to need to do is I'm going to need to do some regrouping and borrow from that 12 whole to make the 7/28 into a bigger fraction. So let's look over this. I'm going to do it in a different color so you guys can see what I'm doing. So I got 12 and 7/28. All right, so I'm going to borrow from that 12, and that's going to become 11 plus 28 plus 7/28. Okay, so that is my new. It's the same thing. So 28 is one whole. All right, so I just borrowed from that 12, and then I'm going to go in and condense those, and it becomes 11 and 35/28. All right, so now I'm going to take that 11 and 35/28 and put it back into my equation. So my problem now becomes it's the same problem, just different form. 11 and 35/38 or 28, sorry. 35/28 minus 8 and 20/28. All right, so now I can go ahead and start subtracting. I'm going to subtract my whole number. So 11 minus 8 is going to be 3. And I'm going to subtract my fractions. 35 minus 20 is 15. So 15/28. Right? And that is my answer. That is actually in simplest form, so there's nothing else I need to do. They're in proper fractions and already in simplest form. All right, so now I'm going to show you the other way. This way is probably not the best for these numbers because it's going to be a lot of it's going to involve a lot of big numbers. But I'm going to go ahead and show you what I'm going to do. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and use. I already made the denominators the same, so I have. But that's the first thing I would need to do. So my problem is going to be 12 and 7/28 minus 8 and 20/28. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to convert those into a proper fraction. So 12 times 28 plus 7, and so that would be 12. Let's see, I'm going to use my calculator for this. This is why it's probably not the best for this problem. 12 times 28 plus 7, so 343. 28 minus 8 times 28 plus 20, 244, 28ths, right? And then I go ahead and subtract them, and I get 343 minus 244, 99 28ths, right? And so I have an improper fraction here, so I need to get rid of that. So 99 28ths equals 3 and 15 28ths. All right, so those are the two ways to do it. If you're fine with multiplication and you want to do it this way, that's fine with me. I usually always do it this way if my denominator is the same, but it just depends on you. So let's go ahead and I want you to try this extra example. Only do one, don't do both. Either do the regrouping strategy or do the converting to improper fraction strategy. All right, so go ahead and do this and resume the video when you're ready to go. All right, so let's go over this. So once again, I have 17. This one. So once again, my fractions are small. My bigger value, I can't take away 9/10 from 2/5. And I know even before finding the common denominator, I know it's still 9/10 is bigger because 2 is not quite halfway of 5, but 9 is way past the halfway point of 10. All right, but before I begin, I'm going to go ahead and convert 2/5 minus 9/10 into equivalent fractions with the same denominator, and that would be 4/10 minus, and the 9/10 just stay the same. All right, so now I'm going to go plug these back into my problem. So I have 17 and 4/10 minus 9/10. All right, so here's the problem I'm talking about. I can't take away 9/10 from 4/10, so I'm going to have to borrow from that 17. So that becomes 16 and 16 plus 10/10 plus 4/10. So I just broke down. So that's part of one half of the problem minus 9/10. All right. So then I can condense these, and that would be 16 and 14/10 minus 9/10. That's going to get me 16 and 14 minus 9 is 5/10. All right, so that's okay for an answer, but this is even better, 16 and a half. All right, that's the simplest form. All right, so now the other method. All right, so I have 17 and 2/5 minus 9/10, so I already have my common denominator, so it's 17 and 4/10 minus 9/10. This was a little bit easier because 17 times 10 is 170, so 174. 174 tenths minus 9/10, and that's going to be 174 minus 9, 165 tenths. And this one I can go ahead and divide. Let's see. If I do 165 divided by 10, I'm going to get 16 and 5/10. All right, and so that are 16 and 1/2. All right, so those are my two methods of doing it. Don't worry. I just know anytime you're working with tens, it's always easier to convert to a decimal. So that's just where I get that decimal from. But if it wasn't a 10, I probably would have just done it a different way. All right, so go ahead and try this one on your own and resume whichever strategy you want to do, and resume it when you're ready to go. All right, so for this one, I'm just going to do the borrowing method. All right, so I'm going to rewrite my equation. So 25 and 1/3 would be 3 and 14 have, let's see, what was the common denominator? So 14, no, 28, no, 32, 42, and is 42 a common multiple of 3? And the answer is yes. 3 goes into 42 14 times. Right? So that 14 doesn't have to do anything. So 25 and 14. I'm sorry. Or 42. So 14 42s minus 10, and 42 goes in 3. So 30 42s. All right. Now I'm gonna have to borrow, so that's gonna be 25, 24, and 42, 42 plus 14, 56, 42s minus 10 and 30, 42s. All right, 42s. I keep saying twos. Now I'll go ahead and subtract. So 24 minus 10 is going to be 14. And then 6 twelfths minus 30 twelfths is going to be 16 42s. All right, so that's my answer. That's okay. So 14, 16 42 is okay for an answer. But I'm going to go ahead and simplify that because I know that at least 2 is a common multiple of those two numbers. So that'd be 14. 16 divided by 2 is 8. And then 42 divided by 2 is 21. And I can't simplify it any further. So that is my answer. So 14 and 16, 42 is good. 14 and 821 is better. All right, so that concludes the work. Remember, just extended. You have until Friday. I'm not going to really have a big quiz this week because there was a lot. There will be a small quiz, probably 5 questions or so. I don't know. But if you have any questions, be sure to join the Math Web Help meetings that we have every Tuesday and Thursday. Check the home page for times and the link. All right, so all right, guys. I have nothing else to say, you guys. I hope this was not too bad, and see you next time.